Muslim sources accuse Christian militiamen of starting the clashes in an attempt to impede Muslim demands for power sharing. Christians, meanwhile, blamed Muslims, who they said feared the return of legitimate government authority. 23 people were wounded when dozens of artillery and mortar shells crashed into Muslim West Beirut, while 16 people were injured in similar barrages on the Christian eastern half of the capital. The bombardments terrorized thousands of residents who fled to underground shelters for refuge. The road and the checkpoint linking the divided halves of the city was opened by late Wednesday morning. A report on the state-run Beirut radio later said that the committee representing the rival factions will be meeting to consolidate the latest ceasefire. But while fighting tapered off around the Green Line, clashes were reported between army and Muslim militias in Beirut's southern suburbs. The latest violence raised casualty figures to 87 killed and 520 wounded since the breakup of the Lebanese peace talks in Lausanne, Switzerland, 3 weeks ago. 2 Lebanese army soldiers were among the dead after the Muslim bombardment. The injured were all civilians. "9 years of civil war and the fighting in Beirut still goes on. Christian and Muslim militias fired at each other for hours. 9 people died, but hope lives on. The two sides are reported to be going ahead with plans to set up a neutral buffer zone between them. A meeting of political leaders encouraged the faint hopes. President Gemayel went off to northern Lebanon to meet a man who used to be president, Suleiman Franjieh. The two are far from friends. Lately, Franjieh has been siding with the Syrians. Nothing came out officially about what was said, but it seems President Gemayel is still intent on forming a new national coalition cabinet. The fighting erupted in the deserted street battle zone known as the Green Line, separating Christian East Beirut from Muslim West. At the same time, an artillery bombardment fell on Christian areas in mountains northeast of the city. In one attack, the presidential palace was hit by rocket fire, causing serious damage, although hurting no one. It all came just 5 days after faction leaders agreed to partially withdraw their forces so that a buffer zone could be set up. That zone, running from the Green Line into the mountains east of Beirut, will be patrolled by a 2,000-strong force of police and army reservists. It may help prevent clashes like these, but it's impossible to tell whether in the long run it will succeed where other peacekeeping forces have failed.
This is the tragic face of war, children dying in a struggle they don't really understand. These Muslim children were among 5 who died in the latest round of fighting between Christian and Muslim militiamen in Beirut. As the fighting raged, closing the Green Line between the east and west of the city, this mosque was the scene of anger and sorrow for the parents and relatives of the young dead. The wounds tell the story, a single bomb blast and it was all over. Among the closely knit families of Beirut, the cost of the civil war is counted in death, and that includes children. Scenes like these reflect the deep-seated hatred tearing the city apart. Losing ground in the street war is one thing, losing children is quite another. But the human toll is often blurred in the crackle of gunfire and the crash of rocket shells.